I think there's a lot of people that can relate to that in a place of not sure. Do I want to be married? Do I not? Do I want kids? Do I not? Do I want to be an entrepreneur? Do I not? Do I want to feel this way? Do I not? Insanity and crazy and frustration and anger and all of the things. Because that's something we experience on every level in some way, shape, or form in relevance to whatever it is that we're dealing with at that time. And I believe like we're living in a world right now where people feel so alone and like they are the only one. You know, I had this consultation with the hairdresser or salon owner yesterday. And she's like, I get these girls coming in feeling entitled. And I'm just like, why don't other salons have these issues? Other salons do have that issue. This is a problem with society. It's not just your salon. I had that issue. But that's why I'm qualified to coach her. It's because these are all issues that other people are facing. And just as Coach Garrett said, now you own the blueprint of how to overcome it, figure it out. And when I told him last week, I said, hey, we're ready to burn this ship. It's not looking good. He says, yeah, so you got to get out of the harbor. The boat's on fire. It's going to blow. Where are you going? Who cares? We'll worry about that later. Get out of the harbor. You just got to move. Because oftentimes you sit there and you just stare at the ship and you become helpless. It's too big of a beast for you to put out the fire on your own. But he's like, what can you do? And I felt like that heaviness in business of what can I do right now? I feel that way with my kids being sick right now. What can I do for them right now? It's frustrating because you want to be where you're going right now. I think that's something everybody feels. The more you can talk about it, the more people can relate and realize they're not alone, just like every single person on that call feels and has felt the same exact way you do or you have. And look at them. There's such a broad range of people. There's some people on that call that don't have a single client. There's some people on that call who have hundreds of clients. Yet they all feel the same. So Sergio asked you, all of us, the direct question is, are you in a place where you can receive what God has for you? What is coming to you? Are you in a place to receive that? For me, I'm like, give it all to me. Yes, I'm ready. I'm open. But then there's others that I know are being held back. They're almost unsure if they deserve it.
I took a test. I'm reading this book called Win the War. And there's a pride test because it says in the book that God, the one sin he hates the most is pride. And there was ways to score it is like 5 points is always, 4 is frequently, 3 is sometimes, 2 is rarely, and 0 is none. And so he asked like, I don't know, there's probably like 25 questions. And it was based out of 100 points, and I scored 81 points. And it was the questions like, when you're in conversations, do you think about yourself first? When something good happens to people, do you say that you wish it was me? Like, is it always, sometimes, whatever? And I just sat there, and it feels like in the last couple weeks, the more that I think about me, the more I see how like shitty of a person I am. And on that call, when he asked me, I wasn't pissed at Sergio per se, but I was just mad that like the spotlight was on me, because I'm like, I feel like it's on me like every month at council, and it keeps coming back to the same story. And it's probably tiring for people to hear. It's time for me to hear. And I'm just like, these people are like, what the fuck is going on with this dude? Can he just figure it out? Like, he's always crying. Is there always this? And it's like, no one has this problem. Like, no one that is in our class keeps coming back. And I'm like, and so to like be present, it was funny. I was having this thought last night. I was looking at Bree, and she had her hair done the way I love, and wearing some nice spandex pants. And I was just looking at her, and I was just like, dude, like, she's like all that I want. But my mind instantly went to how much money I don't make, the life I haven't been able to provide, the things I've ruined, and it just overwhelmed me, my thoughts. And it's constantly doing that. And I told Bree a couple weeks ago that it would probably be easier if I just like left for her. And because we do couples therapy, we do calls like this, we do podcasts like this, where I just like, dude, I am not a good person. And I constantly do it to myself. I constantly put my foot in my mouth, constantly things that shouldn't be bad are bad. Like something happened yesterday, and it was like there was no need for it, and I just let my emotions and feelings take over. And it was just, it is. It's an interesting place to be in, because you want to change, and it's just like anything else in life. If you're in debt, if you're overweight, it's a lot sometimes. Like, you look at how overweight people are, and you're just like, well, they're like, screw it, I don't care. Or I'm in debt, like, screw it, I'll just get more debt, because it's hard to get out of debt. It's hard to lose weight. It's hard to, if you're an asshole, to be a nice guy. Like, it sounds really funny when you say it out loud, but it's true. And I am like overweight in my spirituality, in the sense of I've gotten so fat that I don't know, like, it's going to be a lot of work to get back to fit. And it's much easier to stay fat. It's much easier to stay where I'm at, because I think I'm not going to cause more damage if I just leave, which is false. Which is like, if you stay fat, you're going to be fine. No, it's not true. And so I'm at that place where things I've done in the past, where I think I should be, I'm just so overwhelmed by how shitty I am and was. And it's holding me back from truly living the life that God wants me to. And I say that, but I have really even underplayed how big God is. I haven't fully trusted him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's the even shittier part, is you see what you have in front of you. like you see the end result, and I don't choose that mentally. That's the messed up part that I'm trying to figure out, and I feel like the harder I figure it out, or the harder I try, the worse I get. The worse I get. It's like starting at the gym, and I gain weight. That's where I feel like I'm at.
And you know what's interesting about that is on the call, our coach asked Mark, where's he at? And he just flat out said, no, I don't know. And I chimed in and I said, no, what don't you know? Because the truth is, in order to allow something to heal and repair, you have to expose light to it. And what you're dealing with and going through right now, what you don't know is very unfamiliar feelings because you've hardened your heart to not trust God. You've hardened your heart to even not trust yourself. You've hardened your heart to even not trust me. Some of the words that Mark has said in our marriage that is just mind-blowing to me is like, why are you still here? It's like, even me standing in front of you in the kitchen still leads you to disbelief that I'm here. So looking at yourself in the mirror and telling yourself you're going to do something or be something or whatever it is, but you're still in disbelief of what you are capable of. Your words have no weight then. And then praying words to God that you don't even really believe. They're just words evaporating in the air. And I think the truth test for Mark and what he's going through right now is in his faith. And everybody keeps telling him, what do you have to give up to go to the next level? And I don't think that it is anything physical. The surrenderance for Mark is a battle that I personally have just gone through in fully trusting God. And we talk all the time about our Enneagrams. I'm an Enneagram number 8. And Enneagram number 8's greatest weakness is shifting power and giving that up. It's so true. It's how I operate in life. That's why I don't go to the dentist and I don't fly on airplanes, because I don't like to not be in power or control. But the truth is, as soon as I surrendered the power and I fully trusted, I can't just say I trust God. I have to live I trust God. I have to be that woman of faith. I can't just talk about her. I just can't speak of it. I have to be her. And when you are that woman of faith, things in your life start to change. You watch your own self transform in the mirror. The words I speak to myself even are differently than I used to say before. The words I speak to my children are differently than I used to speak before. The directness with my husband is so different than I used to speak before. It's because I have a different knowing of my faith, because I was willing to surrender control and power. Which the truth is, I never really even had control to begin with. So how stupid that was the one thing that I didn't want to give up. But I think you hit the nail on the head on our call is you said, I don't trust myself. And that's so true. You don't trust yourself, therefore you can't trust God. You don't trust God, therefore you can't trust yourself. And they go hand in hand. So it's not about surrendering a thing. I gave up drinking in the month of April. I got to start over because I had a sip of alcohol on the 28th by accident. Mark brought me a Bloody Mary from Neighbors, one of my favorite restaurants, and it was supposed to be a virgin. I guess they made one. They spilt it, so they made a second one, and the second one they made was not a virgin. I drank, tiny bit of it to realize, shoot, there's alcohol in this. Mark, take it back. Whatever. So anyways, my goal was 30 days sober, and at day 28, I had vodka, so we were starting over. So I'm 2 days sober. But my point is, we gave up alcohol. I gave up alcohol just because I felt like God told me, you don't need it right now. I want you clear-headed. There's no reason for you to be compromised if that's something that compromises my clear-headedness, if you will, my clarity. I don't need it. Mark then kind of joined the wagon, I don't know, a week ago or something. I said, babe, I don't feel like it's something you have to give up as far as a thing, stuff, even a habit. It's a belief system. It's a knowing. It's a willingness to create space there in the unknowing to grow into knowing. And that place of surrenderance is hard because we resist it so much. Again, it's a thing that's not in our control, or it's a shift in power, whatever you want to call it. But there is such like an insecurity that exists there for whatever reason, even when you know these aren't things that you really had control over anyways. So as I can be standing in front of Mark in the kitchen, there's still a disbelief that I'm there. You can add up all the things that you've done in your life, and there's still a disbelief that you did them for whatever reason. That comes down to a mindset and a choice. And then the choices only come down to you. So the interesting thing about this book that you're reading about pride is your greatest sin. I'm pretty prideful when I'm full of pride. So how do you switch that? How do you give that up? How do you surrender that? I don't think that's through not drinking for me. It's from being willing to be vulnerable and speak to the woman I need to speak to. That, hey, life isn't always chipper and happy. Marriage isn't always good. No, my hair isn't always perfect. But exposing my imperfections, those become my power. And when I can speak in power and clarity, the woman that needs to hear me can hear me. The woman that needs to move can move. The ship can pull out of the harbor.
Yeah. After the pride, the next chapter was the me, myself, and I. The what do you call it? The something trendy. It was pretty much saying that like this is like the worst thing you could do is just me, myself, and I. And you use those in a sentence or how you feel, and that's where I'm at right now. And that's like where the pride kicks in. Is you're about myself, about me, how I feel, what I want, what I didn't get. Like I want more of what I deserve, whatever it is. And it's kind of funny and crazy because we've been taught by society that that's like what you should do. Like it's all about you. And didn't realize how much I let that control me over the years, and does control me. And he said during the book, he said that most people won't want to take these tests because they don't want to look at themselves. Mm-hmm. And I had a buddy this morning, me and him did it, and he was just like, yeah, he goes, and he actually read the book, and he was like, I could have read this book 10 times, but actually like taking the test, actually like writing the answers down, it's a whole different ball game. And he scored like 72 or 3 or something like that. And he's like, you don't realize like how much you're about your pride, about you. I said, no, I know. That's why I heard this yesterday in the car driving. And I was like, oh my gosh, like out of 100, I'm like upwards of 90. I was at 81. We did the test this morning. And so it was all about you, me, myself, how I feel, what I want, what I deserve. It's never about, hey, how does this make my wife feel? How about my kids, my family, all these things. And so for me to squash pride, it's to put other people first and to humble yourself before people, before God, say sorry, say I messed up. It's hard to do though. Like I blew up last week in front of my sister-in-law and my mother-in-law, and I haven't apologized. I don't really feel like I don't want to. I know it's pride. I don't want to apologize because I feel like, well, they've done bad things too, and then they apologize to me. Like I'm justifying my actions. And I'm like, and I always go, this is another prideful thing. Why am I the one that always has to apologize? You know what I'm saying? Why don't other people apologize? Mm-hmm. And well, it's not up to me. But I know all these answers in my head, and I just choose to forget them or just choose to think about them 2 days later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the truth is, you become exhausted with having the same story. In order for your story to change, you have to change and do things differently, like you don't normally do, right?
I'm exhausted by my story, but it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's what I know. It's comfortable. I've gotten through most of my life with it, and it's like, well, yeah, I've ruined a lot of relationships and done all that, but I'm still alive. I'm still standing, right? It's kind of a fucked up place to be. Like I said, it's the same thing with weight, right? It's like, well, I lived this long so far, so there's no need to go to the gym. There's no need to do anything different. It's the same thing, just different ball game.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, you're sitting here and saying that your story's comfortable. It's what you know, but there's a place of suffering there that exists because you're choosing not to do something different. Because the truth is, you don't really like it. You don't really want to be in that place. So the truth is, I don't want to do what it requires for me to leave this place. What it's going to require for the ship to pull away from the harbor, I don't really want to do. So I'd rather sit here and burn.
I don't really know what it is going to require from me. Like,
I think it's the surrenderance of your pride. Going back to everything you just read.
Yeah.
That's the requirement. And now what those things are, that's up to you and between you and God. As a loving wife, I can give my 2 cents, but I think it's a place where it's not really welcomed.
Yeah.
That's a thing for you and God. And see, that took an insane amount of control for me right there because I just want to blurt out the answer. You need to do da-da-da-da-da-da-da. For me to do internal work as a number 8 and work on me, it is making a conscious effort every day for Mark to let him fight his own battle. Come alongside him when I'm welcomed or invited, but also create space and respect that when I'm not. That is so, so hard for me, especially with my personality type. But working through the muck in the marriage, that's something that I'm committed to and I have to do. And I'm going to break that commitment so many times. I know I'm going to fall short by making a conscious effort as much as I can to not do that. And not even for Mark, for me. That's something I want control over. I don't want to be compromised because of my emotions, or I get so excited or frustrated or mad or state the obvious. I want to have control, be grounded and centered, and not feel like I got to blurt things out. And ultimately to respect his space. And there were a lot of years in my marriage where I didn't. And I know that too was damaging, even if I was right. Even if you're right, ladies. That can be so damaging. It's an intense podcast because that's where we're at in life. And we have had to learn the hard way that through coaching, this is how you lead people, is from where you live. And where we're living right now is ready to burn the ship. It's not a good place in marriage. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel good. But the truth is we're committed to the long haul. What it's going to require to pull the ship out of the harbor, I don't know. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to figure it out as I go. And then where we're going, like Garrett said, is we'll figure it out as we go. I don't need to know all the steps. I need to know the next step. And oftentimes we're sitting here trying to project what 2 weeks is going to look like. I'm just hanging on for dear life for tomorrow. I just need to breathe through today. And I think that was so much of what Mark gets swallowed in the projection of the future. And I think any man wanting to provide for their family would. But the truth is, hey, we don't even know that day's going to exist. Let's just be right here, right now. What do we need today? What's the next step today? What's the next step to get our kids healthy today? That's been my survival mode in balance, in my relationship, in life in general, is how do I get my kids healthy? What is the next step? In business, I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. In coaching, in the salon world, in the hair world, whatever. There's so many things that are just riding this roller coaster right now because of just shifts we're experiencing in life. I don't have to have all those steps figured out. I just need to do the next one. That's just our way of chipping away at creating the target for the future, whatever that is, and working your way there. Just like the gym. First, get your gym clothes on. It's your first step. Grab your earbuds, grab your water, get in the car, drive, park at the gym, get out the car, walk in the door. Do you have a membership? Swipe your membership. Walk to the machine. Pick up the weight. Yes, it sounds so stupid, you guys, but these are the steps people forget they need to take before they pick up the weight. So while you're sitting here trying to think about, how much weight do I lift? Who gives a shit if you're not even at the gym? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Every situation in life can feel that way if you're not in the right state of mind. And that first and foremost starts with you getting grounded and deciding that you want stability and security in your relationship with God. Deciding you want stability and security in your relationship with your wife. Or better yet, deciding you want stability and security in your relationship with yourself. It's funny because my coach challenged me. He says, hey, Bree, I need to know what's your compelling vision for your future husband. What does this man look like? I very much so believe that it's Mark. But we need to look at what is a non-negotiable for you. I think it was the second or third thing I wrote was a man that understands and sees his value and respects that. And I think that's something that so many men fall short because they want to provide everything they can for everybody else. But if you're not firm and solid with you, how can you provide anything for anyone? How can you show up for anyone? If I am compromised and I show up to work expecting to make $10,000 that day and lead 20 other people on my team, forget it. Forget it, because I'm not standing in integrity and I just can't physically do that. People sniff it out of you. We're going for moody light today.
Mm-hmm.
But it's true. The non-negotiables for me and the man that I want is not very far from the man that he is. It's just a matter of choice. To become the man he wants to be. The man that he respects. The man that honors God in all that he does. A man that fears God's ability more than his own. It's pretty simple. It's not a bunch of stuff. It's not a bunch of things.
Yeah.
So I guess if you're a man listening to this, what type of man are you? Where are you? Where do you want to go? In your core, do you feel compromised? Or in your core, do you feel you're a solid oak tree when there's a storm? And that the storm passes by and you're still standing? For a woman, what have you tolerated in life to come to realize that's not actually what you really wanted? That's okay to think about and admit. And then the challenge is, what do you do? What do you do when you do recognize you've tolerated something far less than what you know your value or your worth is? It's a really hard place to be, and it's a hard place to even admit. And you can't do anything about it until you're first willing to admit where you are. And that was something we talked about on our call, is saying this out loud is so hard for me because I've spent so many years packaging the perfect package of presentation in business that served me well and made me very successful. I could have been 10 times more successful if I was willing to relate to my clients through pain and not be so damn perfect and be willing to admit what was broken, because we all are. And there's so much beauty in that, rather than something that's fake and trying to be perfect that is really not even feasible. It's unrealistic. So, where are you at, Daddy?
I'm not sure right now.
I think there's a lot of people that can relate to that, in a place of not sure. Do I want to be married? Do I not? Do I want kids? Do I not? Do I want to be an entrepreneur? Do I not? Do I want to feel this way? Do I not? Do I want to do what's required? Or do I not? The truth is, life is full of many uncertainties. But there is a source. And something that Mark has experienced in the last week and a half at a level I would say that you never have as long as I have known you. And that is coming to know faith through hearing the Word of God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think that's a wrap for this podcast. It's a heavy one. It didn't get an intro, and it's probably not going to get an exit, but here you go.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Subscribe. Until next time.
Good night. This is a number I don't know, just a text I got. Hey, Bree, I don't normally do this, but when Mark was speaking, I kept hearing the words, on guard. I feel very strongly that this is from God. I kept testing it to make sure that was true what I was hearing, but God told me to send it to you to share with Mark. So I also did a little research to confirm what God was speaking to me in regards to what I felt God was showing me in the relationship to what Mark might be experiencing. Please test this with God. In fencing, on guard is a command used to indicate to the fencers that they should assume a ready position and be prepared to begin the bout or engage in fencing exchange. It's a signal for the fencers to adopt a defensive stance with their weapons poised and their bodies prepared to move and react quickly to their opponent's action. In the context of in everyday language, figuratively, on guard can simply mean being cautious, wary, or alert to potential dangers or threats in various situations. Now, as I always do, I looked up in the Bible, and I was shocked to where God took me. Mark 13:33. Be on guard. Be alert. You do not know when that time will come. In this passage, Jesus advises his followers to be watchful and prepared for his return, emphasizing the uncertainty of the timing. To me, Bree, this verse serves as a call to action, regardless of the uncertainty of the timing, specifically God's CTA to Mark. God is calling Mark. God will only do it when Mark truly surrenders guilt and shame. Once God is 100%, Mark has laid the guilt and shame down. That's when God can start the clock on the Mark he has made new. I tested this too in the Bible, and here's what I found. Psalms 103:12. As far as the east is from the west, so far has he removed our transgressions from us. Bree, God's forgiveness is complete and removes our sins from us entirely. Dwelling on guilt and shame after receiving God's forgiveness goes against freedom and cleansing he offers. I know this because I've lived it. God's forgiveness is sufficient to cleanse us from all guilt and shame. Holding on to the guilt and shame can hinder Mark's ability to fully embrace God's plan for his or her life and experience what God has in store for him next. We are called by our faith to trust in God's forgiveness, let go of our past sins, and move forward in faith with complete submission and obedience. Again, please go behind me and check me. Sorry for the length of this message. I'm just trying to be obedient to what God shared with me on the call. By the way, tell Mark if he needs some new friends. Well, my husband would love to have Mark in his life. That goes for both of you. Unknown sender. No idea who that is. It's pretty powerful. Another woman who spoke into my life recently, I asked her to pray for me in my marriage. I haven't read this yet, but she texted me this just now. I will pray. Is it fear that's causing these issues with Mark? I think launching your podcast is good. You have good intentions. Just don't run out ahead of your partner. You and Mark are one. Both have to be united. Remember, this is to evolve over the next 2 years. And the relationship with the person he's spoken to our lives, he and his wife, were to be built. God shared you both would be shoulder to shoulder, meaning you both have a purpose in your futures. They are similar, and what I felt was you both inspire and encourage each other. You're a high letter I. I believe so is this man. There's more I believe God shared, what I felt God was showing with that in the voice text. And that was something she shared with me a couple weeks ago. Then another friend from this same call texts me, I love you and your bravery, and we are always here for you. And that is what community looks like. People that take the time to text you a 15-page text message and you don't even know who they are. I know it's a woman because she said her husband would love to have Mark as a friend. And this is the thing, when you are in tune with what God is doing in your life, you don't have to think about the words to say. God creates a feeling within your message that gets people to move. And as long as you allow roadblocks to not let you speak for whatever reason that is, in Mark's case, it's a stutter. In my case, I didn't want to be so honest. But when you allow that to stop you from speaking the message God gave you, encounters like this don't happen. People don't feel movement in their soul. So you have to swallow your pride, bury your pride, whatever it is, and be willing to take on the commands that God gives you, urged in your soul. Otherwise, you're going to miss the whole boat completely. I'm sure more texts will come in because that was a call of 80 people maybe. Mark and I took the spotlight there at the end for a hot minute of just working through our muck. And as hard as it is to expose yourself, there was someone on that call that needed to see that they're not alone. And there's other people there feeling the same things that we're feeling. And allowing yourself to go and be exposed in obedience allows God to work through you. There's not really any pride there at all. It's the willingness to go and speak and do what's required. So we're going to sign off a second time. Let's see if this ends now or we start recording again. Good night, guys.